Arsenal won the Premiership last night. So here are 6 ways to say you're exhilarated, euphoric, on cloud 9, thrilled, jubilant, and over the moon. These all mean very happy. If you would like to learn more with me, English with Fiona, please like and subscribe. First up, we have flesh out. This means to add more details to a basic plan or idea. You need to flesh out how you are going to do it, or let's flesh out our description. Marketing needs to flesh out the promotional strategy so we can launch the campaign on time. To hammer out is to reach an agreement after a long, difficult discussion. For example, those numbers are set. We will meet with the suppliers to hammer out a new contract. So it tells us it's going to be a difficult negotiation with a lot of back and forth to hammer out the details. Factor in is to include a specific cost or variable in your calculations. It means there's something important you must remember or take into consideration. The finance team must factor in the recent rise in shipping costs so our projections are accurate. To claw back is to recover money, power, or a market position previously lost. Our primary goal during that negotiation is to claw back the 3% market share we lost last quarter. Zero in on. This is to direct all your attention to one specific problem or target. For example, we need to zero in on our declining profit margins before the board meeting next Tuesday. In context, we need to zero in on our declining profit margins before the board meeting next Tuesday. The finance team must factor in the recent rise in shipping costs so our projections are accurate. Once those numbers are set, we will meet with the suppliers to hammer out a new contract. Our primary goal during that negotiation is to claw back the 3% market share we lost last quarter. Finally, marketing needs to flesh out the promotional strategy so we can launch the campaign on time. Let me know in the comments which one of these you will be using to impress your boss next week. Walk through. So to walk through means to explain a process or structure step by step. Let's have a look at through first of all. So through means to go from one side to the other, from point A to point B. In this case, he drove the car through the tree. So in our business context here though, we're looking at a method. It talks about step by step. So here we have a method that says step 1, step 2, step 3. So this, in context, for example, today I'm going to walk you through our new operational strategy for the upcoming fiscal year. Let's have a look at our next phrasal verb, touch on. To touch on means to mention a topic briefly without going into detail. Let's have a look at the vocabulary. First of all, we have to touch. Okay, to touch a screen, to touch your face, okay, is to make contact with your hand. But to touch on something means we're looking more at a topic, an idea. So we're not touching something literally. It means to make contact with that topic in what we're talking about. So an idea or a topic. But before we look at the timeline, I want to briefly touch on last quarter's challenges. Our next phrasal verb is back up. This means to prove a point using data, facts, or evidence. So I'm sure you've heard before, to back up. We back up our device's data to the cloud, back up our photos to the cloud. But that's not a phrasal verb. What we're looking at here is having data or facts or evidence that backs up or proves our point. As you can see on the screen, the chart backs up our claim that online engagement has doubled. So there must be proof, it's a percentage, it's a graph, it's statistics showing, backing up what we are saying. Our next phrasal verb is wrap up. This is to conclude a presentation or summarize the main points. You could also wrap up a meeting or summarize the main points at the end of the meeting. So let's check out the vocabulary first of all. So to wrap a gift is to cover it in paper, but it's not a phrasal verb. To wrap up warmly is a phrasal verb. If it's very cold, you should wrap up warmly. It means put many layers of clothes on so that you don't get cold. But it's not right in that it's not concluding or summarizing the main points. You get a weekend wrap up if you watch sports or you watch the news. A weekend wrap up summarizes what has happened over the weekend. So this is the correct use of wrap up in this context here. I will wrap up the main part of the presentation by outlining our next 3 steps. Similar to your weekend wrap up, it summarizes who won, who lost, what were the final scores, what is the relevant news that happened. Next up, we have open up. This is to invite the audience to ask questions or share comments. So, looking at our vocabulary, to open, you open a door. Close a door is the opposite, to open a door. But if we're talking about in a presentation, to open up, to invite the audience to ask questions or share comments. So in this situation, it means to make it available, to give permission to people to do something. After that, I will open up the floor for any questions or feedback you might have. So there's an expression that says, you have the floor. What this means is that you now have permission to speak and nobody is going to interrupt you. This is the time to ask questions or to make any comments you might have or provide any feedback after the presenter has opened up the floor to questions. So in context, let's have a look. Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to walk you through our new operational strategy for the upcoming fiscal year. Before we look at the timeline, I want to briefly touch on last quarter's challenges. As you can see on the screen, the chart backs up our claim that online engagement has doubled. So just listen to me and the pronunciation and make a note of as you can see. This is a nice way to point out a specific area that you are showing in your presentation. I will wrap up the main part of the presentation by outlining our next 3 steps. After that, I'll open up the floor for any questions or feedback you might have. Which of the phrasal verbs were new for you today? And more specifically, which one are you going to make a point of using in your next presentation or meeting? Don't be a stranger. I hope to see you again soon in another video.